This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to Disabled Persons Assembly's Notable Radio Show. DPA is a systemic advocacy organisation run by and for disabled people. DPA is a pan-impaired organisation with members across the country. Over the next half hour, we'll discover how we can work collaboratively to achieve inclusion for all New Zealanders. DPA's Notable Radio Show, a whole new attitude.
Kia ora and welcome to DPA's Notable Radio. I'm your host, Amy Taylor, Kaituitui or Community Connective Otipoti. In today's show, we will be talking to Kate Schrader, co-director of the Dunedin Fringe Festival. The recent Fringe Festival has made leaps and bounds into making sure that our events are accessible for all, which is absolutely fabulous. But before we talk about accessibility at the Fringe, can you tell us a bit about yourself, the festival, and your involvement in it?
Of course. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very happy to be here. So as you said, I'm the co-director slash creative producer. That's my full title.
Producer.
Yeah, I know.
Fancy.
So I was like thinking before speaking today, what does that mean? Well, what it means is that I oversee creative initiatives that we do, like grant funding, awards, and events that we produce within our programs like Fringe, because we actually also produce a bunch of other programs throughout the year. We're a year-round organisation. Fringe is our longest running. It's 25. This was our 25th year.
Holy moly, a long time.
Yeah, long time. It's the second longest running in the country, actually. We're very proud of that, and the second largest. So Fringe festivals, the concept of a Fringe has been around for almost 80 years. They were originated from the famous Edinburgh Fringe. So back post-World War II, there was a lot of work happening across Europe to try and rebuild relationships, and kind of they used arts and culture to do that, to reconnect people to one another and kind of have more positive initiatives and creative initiatives going on to rebuild culturally. And so there was this first arts festival way back in the day in Edinburgh, and you had to be invited to participate. And a bunch of artists were like, well, we want to participate too, and we're not allowed, so we're going to do our own thing at the same time on the fringe of that festival.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and so there's this kind of history of like avant-garde, of being on the edge of the mainstream, of creating space for things that haven't necessarily had space made for them. That's really at the core of Fringe. And so like the basic premise these days is that anyone can participate. We use the phrase open access, which I do want to talk about a little bit more, because obviously the context of what we're talking about means something different.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. But for us, for Fringes, they use that to mean non-curated. So anyone can sign up and participate in a Fringe festival.
Yeah, and I mean, it means the same, but it sort of doesn't it? I mean, access is being able to take part.
Totally.
So yeah, so there is certainly some lines we can draw there, and that's really what we've come together to talk about today is accessibility. And it's been absolutely fabulous watching the last big Fringe festival where you guys were really committed to accessibility, and it was heartwarming in a way to actually feel included, to feel like our community mattered. So can you tell us a bit about what drove the idea to increase accessibility from a disability point of view at the Fringe?
Yeah, of course. And thank you for saying that. That's so kind of you. So like I said, there's this open access link with Fringe festivals. And I will just quickly say the other things that we produce are Young Writers Festival, and Music Project. We run Te Whare Ora Kutia, the venue, and we have the White Box Gallery as well. So because we have our fingers in all these pies, like we have this overarching value as an organisation, which is a city that's, Otipoti, ignited by creativity, where all people embrace art, culture, and creativity into their daily lives. And I put the emphasis there on all people, for obvious reasons, right? Like, we specifically talk in our mission, vision, values about increasing opportunities for communities that have historically been excluded from them. And of course, that includes both deaf and disabled people. So for a long time, it has been an aspiration for us to increase accessibility at like Fringe as our longest running program. And I talked a little bit about the whole open access thing, like to mean uncurated, but actually there's this like wider context, right? That, removing barriers to participation is also what open access can mean. So like our leadership team, myself, Ruth Harvey and Katrina Thompson, for the last 3 years, we've been kind of building on the work of our predecessors, Josh, Gareth, Paul, the pre-director before us. And when we came into leadership, we kind of had a couple of real key relationships that kind of propelled this forward for us. One was, of course, Arts Access Aotearoa and their work and the way that they advise the community. We also, at a critical point, had a member of our team who talked to us a bit about her own lived experience of disability in terms of like coming and working with the festival and also as an audience member. So she's been quite influential in some of the things we've chosen to do over the last few years. And of course, and I know we're going to talk about her a bit more, but the amazing Julie Woods, who is our mentor. Julie has been easily the person that has moved the needle the most. She really, we call her a mentor because she is one, not just for us, but for many. But she's been so influential. And like, I'd say the critical thing that Julie's done is she's broken down for us what felt quite overwhelming. Like, we know this is a priority, but like it can be overwhelming to think, how do we make everything we do more accessible for everyone? Like, whoa.
It's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll talk a bit about what accessibility in the disabled community actually means as a whole a bit later. But I would like to know what accessibility means to the Fringe Festival.
Yeah, great question. Well, it kind of builds on that thing that Julie's helped us break down. Like, how do we stop thinking about it as this big, overwhelming thing where we have to make everything perfect, and kind of pull back from that and realize that like accessibility and, the phrase that we use a lot is like disability communities or the deaf community, none of those are a monolith. Like, and if you try and cater to everyone all at once with one initiative, you're setting yourselves up to fail. And so what Julie's really taught us is that we just have to start. Pick one thing that you can change or evolve that removes a barrier for someone. And that's what accessibility means to us, I think. Is like removing barriers.
It's a fabulous way of looking at it. And I mean, I use this comparison a lot when people try to do everything for one aspect. And I say, listen, you wouldn't really be catering for a 40-something-year-old professional at a baby show, would you? I mean, the Wiggles is not for 40-something-year-old professionals.
No.
But if your 40-something-year-old professional did want to go along, they should be able to actually get in the venue. They should be able to hear what is being said. They should be able to understand what is going on. Maybe they're not the target market exactly, but that doesn't mean they can't participate if they chose to. So yeah, it's about breaking down barriers, but also understanding that whatever theatre show that you set up, you do have a target market. You do have an idea of who it is that is going to enjoy this most.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And it's that those two parts really, isn't it? It's audiences, people who are coming and experiencing events, arts and culture. And it's also the artists themselves, like how they too can have opportunities to present their work, to share their perspectives with the world, whether that be about their own lived experience of disability or, being deaf or disabled, but also there are other perspectives, because it's not just always going to be about that. People aren't just one thing.
No, they're not. And honestly, sometimes in the disabled community, speaking personally, and this does not reflect the views of anybody else, I sometimes find like really overly disability-focused theatre to be boring to me. I'm like, that's not my whole life. Like, I want to have a wine, and I want to have a laugh, and I do just exactly the same as everybody else sometimes. It's not all I don't have to live and breathe being disabled every moment of my life. I can have a break from that sometimes.
Totally. It's about giving people options, and in the same way that we all want options, we all want choice.
Yep, exactly.
Mm.
So let's talk about the lovely Julie Woods, that blind woman. She put up a prize this year for accessibility. Can you tell us a bit about that prize and about the recipients?
Yes, gladly. So again, shout out to the amazing Julie. She came to us wanting to sponsor this award and knowing what she wanted the award to be for. We have historically, so I mentioned as creative producer, something I help look after is like awards and also grants. So we do grants for the festival to help projects be properly resourced. And one of our priorities has always been accessibility. But we've never had a specific access grant, like here is a grant for you to run an access initiative. That's just me saying watch this space, because it's something we're hoping to do for the next festival.
I'm here in UK to hold
we're fundraising for it at the moment, and we're really hopeful. But the other part is awards. So awards are a really important part of our festival. It's a great way to incentivize artists and to celebrate them. And when I say incentivize, I mean to think about delivering access initiatives and then to celebrate them for doing so. So this year we had a variety of events that were eligible for that award. They had to self-nominate and tell us about why they wanted to be eligible for the award, and that's something that we're keen to evolve. You know, we wanted to get started and just try and then learn what we wanted to do differently the next time we did it. And as you know, Amy, there were two that really stood out, and in the end we decided to give the prize to two shows instead of one. And the reason for that was that they really put accessibility at the heart of their event. It was sort of fundamental to the work that they did, and woven in. And the two recipients were, one was called Tiny Show, which was aimed at young people and families. It incorporated New Zealand Sign Language interpretation. It's actually an award-winning show that was touring thanks to the New Zealand Fringe's touring network, where we were able to send shows all around the country. So it's been presented in other cities as well.
To see other performance from all over New Zealand is actually wonderful.
Yeah, I think they're from Whangarei, actually, if memory serves. So they're from right up the other end of the country. I actually have a quote here from Thomas and Fisher, who was the artist, that I think her words speak way better than mine. She said, "I'm really interested in making work that doesn't require interpreting, or at least the interpreting doesn't need to feel separate to the piece, but as part of it. I have found sign language has ultimately enhanced my performance. It's not an add-on, but a key part of the work that influences the storytelling and makes it more engaging."
Well, you can't say better than that, can you?
No, you can't.
Really, that's like really at the heart of what accessibility is. It is just that it is so part of it that there is no separating it, and it's for everybody. It is not just for the deaf community, although it is hugely helpful for them. Everyone can enjoy it, and New Zealand Sign Language is one of our official languages. Let's celebrate it.
Exactly. And it's also about that, I think, so-called visibility. Like, people of all, from all communities, from right across the community that we have here, are going and seeing work that incorporates New Zealand Sign Language so beautifully and being exposed to it, even if it's not something that they themselves speak. That can only be a good thing. And so, as you know, the feedback we got about that show really supported that idea, and also said that it felt really seamless and woven into the fabric of the experience. So that was such an easy one. And then the other recipient was a show called ASMR Hour. It was a solo show by an artist called Amy. It actually incorporated two initiatives, a touch tour and audio description, which was amazing. And again, I have a quote because
wonderful.
I want to hear from the artist. Yep. So Amy commented, "In my experience, touch tours are the easiest accessible offering to start implementing." Love that. If I give the session a bit of planning and careful thought, I can craft and host an invaluable touch tour before all my shows. Audio description takes a bit more consideration, but is very manageable. In a theatre context, it means it's a thoughtful commentary of the non-audible things that are happening on stage. can be off stage, delivered by another person, or can be done by the performer, which is what Amy chose to do. She said it cost nothing. It only took a bit of practice to start weaving it in without thinking. It doesn't have to be daunting, expressive, offered only once a season. It can be intrinsic to your live work every time.
Oh, wow, we need more performers like this person.
Yes, we do.
That's just absolutely fabulous, because then the deaf community, the blind community, and everybody else can just go along and enjoy it without having to, you know, how much admin it is to find out whether your show that you're going to go to is actually accessible for your needs. Oh, it can be very difficult in mainstream commercial shows. So let's talk a little bit about accessibility from the disabled community's point of view. We all know that venues should have wheelchair access. We'll talk about that in a moment. They don't necessarily do, but what other types of access are there to theatre?
So, you know, this is a lot of what I'm sharing is what I have learned from people with lived experience of disability and also arts access Aotearoa. The ones that kind of jump out for us in terms of our programs and what we can support our artists and our audiences to access. Like Amy and Thomason gave great examples, touch tours. And actually, I don't think we talked about what that means. So that's when either before the show, usually before the show, people are able to go to the space where the performance will be held and physically touch what is used in the show, whether that's costumes, props, the set, and other things like that, so that they get that sensory experience as well and understand when the show is actually happening or the event is happening. Those things they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So it's literally you get a tour where you get to touch things. And I mean,
it's like fun for anybody. You're like, yeah, I like touching things.
Yeah, I think this, you know, talking to you, Amy, it reminds me of, we have another mentor in our work. His name's Borny Tukiwaho. He, until recently, was the director of the Auckland Fringe Festival, and he also does a lot of work in well-being and mātauranga Māori. And he often says to us, what's good for Māori is good for everyone. And I think that same ethos applies here. Like, a touch tour sounds great. If you're a curious person like me, if you're nosy,
I'm a good noser, I must say. And paying into that, this isn't just for the blind community. The neurodiverse community benefits hugely from touch tours.
Exactly. That's right. We've definitely learned that. Like Amy's show, ASMR Hour, I saw it and it really was totally within the fabric of the show. It made sense as an audience member that was part of what she did for us to experience the work that she was presenting. It wasn't clunky. It just felt totally natural. She did such a beautiful job. So those are two great examples, touch tours and audio description. For us as a festival, like something that we think about is how do, say, audiences engage with us? Like, what are their so-called touch points with us as an organization? So the website is a really good one. How are they booking tickets? And then what information are they being given? How does that interact, say, with like an e-reader or someone's sensory needs? What information are we making available to them at each of the points that they engage with our festival or our events? And how do we make sure that they feel they have the knowledge that they need to make informed choices? Something we started doing, again, shout out to Julie, a few years ago, is also creating a version of our program. You know, we do this print program, very glossy, you find it all over town. That's all very well and good. And it's a PDF. The file is a PDF, but an e-reader software can't read a PDF.
Yeah, some of them struggle. They're getting better.
They are.
There is, yeah, we really need to be aware of what the technology is and how it's changing and who has access to that technology as well. It's all very well to say, oh, well, a screen reader can read X, Y, and Z. Maybe your screen reader is 10 years old. Maybe you don't have funding for a new screen reader. So actually, it's not cut and dry, and it's really about talking to that particular community and talking to the blind community and saying what is accessible to you.
Yes, exactly. I mentioned before, like, that if you start something and you try and cater to everybody in everything that you do, you're sort of setting yourself up to fail. I just want to put a little asterisk on that failure isn't always inherently bad. Like, you can try and get things wrong and evolve and try again and keep working with the people that you're trying to cater to so that you get better and better. Because fear of failure can be a bit of a handbrake.
Yeah, and one of the things this year that we worked on a bit was just the plain old-fashioned, because I'm a wheelchair user, accessibility, is that originally Kate's wonderful team had put up a yes, no, basically, on whether it was wheelchair accessible. And to get the details, you needed to click. Now, I hadn't been clicking, so I'd arrived at the venue and found, yes, it was accessible. But maybe. Yes, for some wheelchair users, not necessarily me. So we talked about having that information front and center rather than hidden behind another click, just to make sure that people did actually know what they were getting themselves in for.
It's such a good example.
Such a wonderful chat that time has escaped us. So I think that we've just about got time for one more question, and then we will talk about some contact details, because I'm sure you want our wonderful listeners to be able to get in touch with you. So I've been quite excited to see our council has put up some funding for some theatre venues, but our traditional theatre venues that we have don't win any prizes for accessibility. And it's really difficult because our ratepayers are not particularly happy necessarily with extra money being spent. So do you want to chat a bit about that?
Sure. So I really deeply hope, and I do believe that there are people leading those projects, and that's both, there's kind of multiple things happening. One is the what's the word? For the existing infrastructure that we already have, some money that's been earmarked for them as seed funding for them to fundraise more for the work they need to do for their buildings. And then there's also the potential new venue. So for the existing infrastructure, I know hand on heart that there's a strong desire to improve the physical and also non-physical accessibility of those spaces, both for artists and audiences. I think that's kind of driving the work that they need to do. They know that absolutely needs to happen in order to be modern, fit for purpose for our community. And then it's just about making sure that they're properly equipped to do that and supporting their fundraising efforts, because they still have a lot that they need to fundraise. Like, that money from council is awesome and it will help them to fundraise, but it's a lot of work, and a lot of them are volunteer or part-time. So, anything that we can do as an organisation or as a community to kind of put our voices behind it, we're very, very keen to do. And then also the idea of a potential new venue, very exciting. Another person that we've had a lot of mentorship from, and I should admit to, is John Marable from Living Well.
We love John. John is my mentor. He taught me.
Yes. John is a legend. We love John.
He's a real legend. I don't know what I would do without John. Many phone calls to John going, "It's not working, fix it."
And that beautiful sense of humor and his calm way, like, he's such an awesome person. He's talked to us a lot about how it's critical that from the beginning, access is part of the conversation when something is being built. There's so much that if it's tackled later in the development stage, whether that's with architects or whatever, that can't be done to the proper best standard, e.g. counter height, e.g. the steepness of, say, a ramp or doorway width, or thinking about the sensory environment. So I think it's on us as arts, arts people and disability advocates and anyone else who cares about this community, to make sure that we hold their feet to the fire, to make sure that that is a priority. I know that the group of creatives who have really driven that with council, it's a priority for them. So really we'd be supporting them and making sure that stays front and center, because it's just got to. What's the point in building something new and shiny if people can't use it?
Yes, exactly. And we have an aging population. That's another thing that we need to remember. It's people aren't getting less disabled.
No, it's already a quarter of the population. Come on. It's
we'll mess around with the stats as much as you like, but it's still a lot of people that are directly affected by this.
Yeah. Absolutely right.
So one last little thing that I'd like to mention. Personally, I'd like to see a little bit of a move away from traditional venues, especially at Fringe, where we've got so many shows going on at the same time. And our performers are just amazing. You watch people performing under trees. And they're so flexible. What can we do to create a flexible, accessible environment? What do you think?
Gosh, that's a good question. I've also worn the producer hat. I've produced some theatre and comedy in my time, excuse me. And I actually used to be the broker for the Dunedin Dream Brokerage, which is an organisation that puts creative projects into unexpected spaces like commercial real estate and other kind of vacant properties to enliven our city. So I've been on the other side of that. And it can sound like a really intimidating thing, but you're absolutely right. Like Fringe is a space where that actually does happen, where we encourage creativity, arts, events to happen in unexpected spaces. And some of the most iconic events have been in those unexpected spaces, and that's so Fringe. It's also a great marketing tool. Like that's the way you get people to come along to events, is by doing something a little bit off the beaten path, so to speak. How we can help people to do that from our perspective, grants I mentioned before as a way, I think just encouraging that kind of out there, outside the box thinking, and helping people understand that it's a way that we can cater to bigger groups of people, not just like kind of something to think about as like something that adds work to your project. Like it actually can be a really positive thing.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that it has much potential to utilize some already more accessible spaces. Yeah, I mean, sometimes even for the neurodiverse community, just being able to come and pass rather than have to sit and concentrate is a really positive thing.
Absolutely.
Right. Kate, Dunedin is so much richer for the work that you do at Fringe HQ, and we're overjoyed to see how committed you are to accessibility. If anyone wants to get in touch with you over these issues, how could they do that?
Well, we would love it if they would. We have an office on George Street. You can pop in and visit us there during business hours. It's number 19 between ANZ and the DCC's escalators.
Okay, I know where you're talking about.
You know where we are. We also have, if you're a social media fan, we have an Instagram, Dunedin Fringe, a Facebook, Dunedin Fringe Festival. We also have a website, www.dunedinfringe.nz. And we old school, we have a phone.
You have a phone?
We do. And when it rings, we all jump because we forget. But the phone number is 03477 3350. If you do want to give us a bell, if that's your preferred way of communicating, please do.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kate. It's just been absolutely fabulous chatting. I think we've just got ahead of ourselves with this wonderful recording this afternoon. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing more work from the wonderful people at Fringe HQ.
And thank you, Amy. Thank you for all your support and all the work that you do.
Disabled Persons Assembly is Aotearoa, New Zealand's first pan-disability national organisation, providing system-level advocacy for all disabled people. Membership is free for individuals. If you'd like to know more, visit our national website at www.dpa.org.nz or contact your local kaituitui or community connector, Amy Taylor, at kaituitui.otipoti@dpa.org.nz. Disabled Persons Assembly, a whole new attitude.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.